Today marks the 5-year anniversary of me choosing life. On May 30th, 2019, I made a decision. I decided to get help. I told my husband that I didn't recognize the woman I saw in the mirror and that something was wrong. And he said, "What do you want to do?" I said, I want to go to the hospital. I need help. So that day, that evening, that night, he drove me to the hospital. I didn't know what they were going to do. I thought they were going to give me some medicine and send me home. Instead, they kept me. And that was one of the greatest things that could have ever happened, because during that period, I had an opportunity to sit with God, get help, and to hear exactly what He needed me to do. Many of you have read my story, Breaking the Silence, Christianity and Mental Illness. And that was a huge part of me healing, me choosing life, me choosing to speak my truth. But there's so much more to this story. There's so much more to this journey. But it all started on May 30th, 2019. And that was the beginning of me becoming Dorcas. In March 2019, I found myself in a place I never thought I would be. I actually almost committed suicide. That was in March of 2019. The gun was there, and I asked God, I said, "God, if I'm meant to be here, you will send help," and He did. Fast forward 2 months later, I was so down. I was so depressed. I was afraid of me. I called into work because I was nothing to nobody. I couldn't get out of bed. I was actually afraid to get out of bed. I didn't trust me with me. And I know God saved me 2 months prior, because I said, if I'm meant to be here, you will send help, and He did. So I knew I was supposed to be there. I was just so afraid of me that I didn't want to expose myself to any outside factors that would put me in that place where I just go for it. And so that week, I called off work. I didn't get out of bed. I didn't eat. I didn't drink anything. And it was during that period that I began to realize that I don't know who this woman is. The jovial, the kind, the helping, the encouraging, she wasn't there. And it was my daughter's graduation from pre-K, and it took everything I had to be happy that day. And this is my first child, and I'm her mom, and I carried her for basically 10 months and have the tiger stripes to prove it. This is my love. And it was a struggle just to be happy. It was a struggle just to be happy. I didn't know that woman. I wasn't her mom. And I wasn't going to continue to not do anything about it. So, like I said, there's so much more to this journey, but it all started with surrendering. And one thing I can say about this healing journey, you can't heal until you surrender. Surrendering means literally that you release all control to God. Me choosing to check myself into the hospital, that was a sign of surrenderance because I didn't know what I was going into. I had to surrender to God's way of healing me, God's plan for healing me. We hear the scriptures all the time. I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. But oftentimes it's scary. It's scary because we don't know the plans, but we have to surrender. We have to allow God to be God. And so now I'm choosing to share this journey of becoming Dorcas because it all started with me surrendering. I was so used to figuring it out. I was so used to being the strong one. I was so used to being everything everybody else wanted me to be. And I didn't know how to surrender. I never really had to surrender, to be honest. But this was a spiritual surrenderance. This was me surrendering everything that I thought I knew. This was me surrendering my life to the one who created me. And it was hard. I'm not going to lie to you. It was hard. But I couldn't heal without surrendering to God. I couldn't start this journey without surrendering to the plans I had for myself and really just choosing the plans that God have for me and resting and finding peace in knowing that His plans are never to harm me. His plans are to prosper me. His plans are to give me a hope in a future. And at that point in my life, I had no hope. At that point in my life, I couldn't see a future. Even though for years I planned out what my life would be like. But I didn't see a future. And so because I didn't have the answer, and figuring it out had left me suicidal and broken and just not recognizing the woman I saw in the mirror. I chose to surrender to the one who created me. And without it, there's no becoming Dorcas. I was born Dorcas. It's not like I changed my name or anything. On my birth certificate, my first name is Dorcas. However, as far back as I can remember, the only people who really called me Dorcas were my teachers. And I had a nickname, and I'm going to share this nickname with the world today, and that was Coochie. That's who I identified as. And because that's who everyone told me I was. Yes, I was born Dorcas. Yes, that's what my mom named me. But I wasn't Dorcas. I was what everyone called me. And so becoming Dorcas is a new person. Dorcas is new. You know, he said the old is gone, the new is here. And so even though I was born Dorcas, even though Dorcas is the name that is on my birth certificate, that's my government name, that's not who I've always been. From a little bitty girl, as I can say, as far back as I can remember, I wasn't called Dorcas. I was who they told me I was. And that's the story for so many people. I was Coochie. My mom never called me that. As I went to college, you know, I identified as K, and I still do. But this journey of embracing my true identity, because Dorcas is a woman of good works. Dorcas actually died and was risen from the dead. Dorcas helped so many people. And because of the resurrection of Dorcas, so many people believed in our Savior, believed in God. And so, yeah, I was born Dorcas, but I was not always Dorcas. I have been becoming Dorcas and walking in the identity of who God told my mom to name me 38 years ago. The nickname, so the PG version is I used to tell people that a family member liked the song Oochie Coochie La 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 and called me that. But in fact, it was in reference to my female body part. And that's, yeah. So I identified as the slang of female genitalia. And the thing about it is in high school, the boys actually changed it to the P word and told me that I had outgrown coochie. And even though I played it off, it hurt. It was traumatizing. But what could I do? I didn't know who I was. And so I allowed it. I allowed people to call me whatever they wanted to. So, you know how you go to the doctor, you're sick, or whatever's going on with you, you have to surrender to your plans, in a sense, to be treated, especially when you are critically ill. I love watching medical shows. The Resident is one of my favorite shows, and I have to think about the journey of the doctor and the journey of the patient, because we know, old school, he's a doctor in the sick room. But when a patient is critically ill, they have to surrender to the tests, they surrender to the treatment plans, and all of those things. When you choose to heal God's way, you have to surrender to all of his tests. You have to surrender to his process. Sometimes it may require surgery, because he's gonna take you through experiences and through situations where you may feel like you are being gutted without anesthesia. But you have to surrender to God's treatment plan. And it's funny how, as beings, the beings that God created, we are so quick to surrender to all of the medicines and the treatments that the doctor prescribe, that the doctor tell us to do. Everything the doctor tells us, we'll do it. And sometimes it makes you sick, make you sicker, but you trust the doctor. So, okay, this is the only way you will heal. And sometimes that don't even lead to healing. It just leads to masking the symptoms or treating the symptoms. But when you surrender and truly heal your soul, heal your heart, it's not a Band-Aid. It's not treating the symptoms. It's you surrendering to whatever God's plan is to heal you. And in this journey, in my journey, that treatment plan, that plan that I had to surrender to in order to be Dorcas, in order to be the woman I am today, the woman I am still becoming, there's no way it could have happened if I didn't surrender. I had to surrender my own wishes. I had to surrender my flesh. I had to surrender just my life, because my life was not my own. And the life that I was creating for myself, the life that I had been a part of and I was living, it was not the life that God created for me. But I didn't have the capacity to live the life of Dorcas without surrendering to God's healing. And has it been easy? No. Were there times when I wanted to abort the mission and choose to just deal with it or not deal with it? Yes. But would I do it all over again? In a heartbeat. Because everything that I had to go through on this journey, none of it was to harm me. At the time, it was painful. At the time, it hurt. I had to work through old things. I had to face me. I had to face other people. I had to speak my truth. I lost people. I lost friends. People stopped speaking to me. But his plans were never to harm me. And they still aren't. And looking back, his plans have prospered me so much. But it all came on the backside of me surrendering to heal God's way. And the journey, the unknown, that's the part that scares so many people the most. But it's that unknown. It's in that space of the unknown that God really gets to see. Do you trust him? And do you really love him? And do you really desire to please him? Because you don't know what's ahead. The unknown is where your faith is really tested. The surrender and the unknown. So join me next week for part 2 of Becoming Dorcas.